1, 2, 3, we live. Here we go.
All right. All right.
Hey,
All
yo,
right.
what's up? We back.
All right. Turn the music.
What? You can't, they can't hear that. All they
They
need to
can't
know
hear
is
the
that we're
music.
recording it. So while we
No
were still listening to it,
way.
I
You set
dropped the
me up.
audio. Yeah, okay, let's
Yo.
do it again.
Heck.
Let's do it again. Because,
No. We started. No.
okay, we
We
started
here.
it.
We
Okay,
here.
one
We
track
here.
mind.
If they laughing at me, they laugh.
Okay, they laughing.
That's
Got it.
if they shame, I have no shame. That's their shame. I got no shame. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm blessed and highly favored.
All right,
We
man.
out here. What
We
up,
out
good
here.
folks?
Hey, yo,
The
we
internet.
outside. We
Internet
outside.
is Tech and Nova. We chilling as always. It's been a minute since we dropped the podcast on y'all folks.
Wait, I got you. I got you.
Been some time.
We've been a minute since we've been in it, but don't be mad because we just
Oh.
tenants up in this
Can we-
business.
No, stop. Can we start over?
Okay.
I'm taking don't start over. I'll just don't rap.
Okay, we won't. This episode.
No, you don't rap. You.
All right, I won't rap. Let's get on with the show. They want to hear the show. Let's get on with it.
Okay. All right. I mean, when you rap, it's hard. We gonna talk about passion, people.
Passion.
That's where we at. And some passions are dead end, like text rapping, but
Yo, okay, let's not roast each other in front of millions of people.
yo, I just can't. I mean, you did to yourself.
All right. I remember
I didn't
that.
even know it. Okay, remember it. My beat. Let's stay on track. Oh, my bad. I wanted to, just I hit him randomly and be like, let's just talk about something. And then he's like, yo, what we supposed to talk about? And I was like, we can talk about passion. And so that's why we here. Because I just think passion is a very interesting career path overall, like choosing what your passion is and making it a job. And I feel like and it just comes from a heart because I've been in this season right now where we just glorify passion, like we romanticize it. And I mean, you don't have to, I mean, do you feel that way? I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but that's how I'm feeling right now, that we glorify and romanticize our passions, and we make it seem like it's not work when in actuality it is work, maybe even more work than a usual 9 to 5. you know I can't hear you if you're talking.
No, I'm just giving you time to speak. No, I agree with
I was
that.
asking you
I
how
was listening to a podcast today, Markiplier. I'm throwing out names, I don't care. And yes, he was some guy who started YouTube and he started making videos. Great. It never was a passion, but when he got to the success level, he started to be passionate because money wasn't an issue. But yes, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, someone is always telling you to drive your passion, which is great. But I'm realizing as a society, we are willing to put ourselves into debt to reach that passion. And I think about so many people that, yes, have successfully started businesses, but how many other people went to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of debt to get a camera or to get a welding machine on the back of their truck or to start a new business or start an idea, and it really doesn't take off. They just invested all this money and, oh, so-and-so said that's my passion and it's going to start off. And it's just like the reality is like you're saying, passion takes work. We simply cannot say we're passionate about something, buy all the equipment, and then not practice it. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, because because we also have to address like at first what you're doing is a hobby, right? But then when you kind of, I guess, skip the line in some ways, like you're talking about Markiplier and he was starting as a hobby or whatever, like something on the side, and it stayed that way until it got big enough. But I feel like we skipped that line because we saw people who didn't really skip the line, but all we saw was their end game, like their fruit of their labor already, and we kind of want to do it not because necessarily because of passion, but because of the fruits, like right, because it's so big. And it's just like, oh yeah, I don't have to work ever again no more, right? I don't have to. I mean, like Twitch streaming, fair, it's an easy amount of job. It's an easy job, right? People would say that. I think even if that's controversial,
I would disagree with that 100%. Starting a
I mean
Twitch stream to
easier.
make
I
it
should say
consistent
easier.
and good quality, you are correct. If you just want to spend like 4 days out of your week and you already have a computer and you have the equipment, you have to create your pages, your All My Links page for like maybe some merchandise or all of your other social medias, but then your descriptions, and you got to get sponsors, but that comes with time. But yes, if you
Right.
just want to start off, if you have enough equipment, you can just go on and play the games you enjoy and start to build a community. That will take
Right.
time.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. Even though it is an easier job, like you know, it's construction is definitely going to be harder than playing games on a stream. But even then, playing games on a stream still going to have its tedious. It's going to still be tedious at times, and there's still going to be its own hangups and own and also consistency. That's always going to be a thing. Like you have to be consistent. Um, and even if and that's one thing. Like even now, I'm trying to learn to be more consistent in everything, but consistency takes so much. Takes a lot out of you. Because when you're talking about having a passion, it's like a second job. Like that's how I'm trying to look at it now. Like it's a second job. I know it sucks, or at least not everybody needs to look at it that way. But I, uh, I just feel like man, like I'm gonna do my work right now for my 9 to 5, and then after that 9 to 5, I still have to put in on my passion. Like I still have to Debbie up, like I don't know if I'm saying Annie up. There you go. I'm Annieing up, because what, like you said, you buy all this equipment and do nothing. It's the same as expecting to get paid when you didn't put in the hours.
I agree,
You didn't
but
clock it.
something that's also competing with your passion, while one portion of that is glorifying that passion, the other portion is if you have a full-time job, your company is wanting to take your main job and turn it to more of a passion. Like, yeah, you were working your 9 to 5. Depending on that job, they may want you to do more besides what your job means. Well, sometimes you'll get paid more, but the reality is your mental space. If you're working so hard in that job, some people after a 9 to 5 job don't want to do anything else because their current
Right.
job is so busy. I know there are
Taxing.
people that do insurance, that are actuaries, that are calculating numbers all day. Do you think at the end of the day they have enough energy to do more of their passion? Probably not. Maybe that's something that's done on the weekend. But the reality
Right.
does go, I would say, is that a lot of what the corporate world used to be, you could go home, you can work probably your 60, 70 hours a week or 50 hours a week or even 40. But yeah, technology wasn't as involved. You were signing up paperwork, you're filling out forms, you're submitting them to the next team member, depending on whatever that job looks like. But the reality still goes, you probably had a little bit more headspace to get off of work, drive 30 minutes home, get a second job, go cut someone's lawn down the street. But now, since technology is so ingrained in our society, I feel like if someone does do a passion, it's almost going to be a passion based upon social media or technology. And I've realized this time and time again. There are so many jobs that need jobs like trashmen or plumbers or electricians. I'm like, man, like everyone can't have a job in in corporate America, nor can everybody be rich in corporate America or even in America in general. And so I'm thinking through this process is like everyone's passion looks
Mm,
different. I knew one
yeah.
guy in
Well,
college. he had part-time jobs while in college, but even after he graduated, he still had two part-time jobs. I think he worked at a private business as the accountant, and then on the evenings he would either sell cars or I think he worked at Walmart. But regardless to that, it is this
Mhm.
understanding that passion is not going to be a cookie cutter situation for all. I think that's what
Right.
my end goal in that thought process was.
Yeah, I don't think passion is cookie cutter, but I don't know if back in the day jobs were so much easier than now. But I would say I think what we may have forgotten as time moved forward because of like convenience is that at the end of the day, a passion is something that it should be something to sacrifice. I think that is the true heart of passion and why it is your passion, right? Like if you're working as a film, like I went to school for film, and maybe I didn't have as much passion for film as I thought because there's people who become PAs. They are people who would get coffee, who would maybe work on some lights or assist with lights, or whatever low job, essentially or labor kind of like assistant job kind of job. I can't think of a word right now. Remedial. I can't even think of the word right now. But like, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to make my own. So and I just decided, I want to write more. But I realized like if someone really loves film, they would do the low task job, the low, what is considered low, like, work, being that assistant that would get the coffee, that would go and, just help whatever is on set and just keep climbing the ranks to get their opportunity to get a hot, be a director or director of photography. Like it's like a passion is supposed to be something that you're willing to, suffer or put in the time over time. Now, I will say, and I think you kind of brought this up before, like you, you don't want to end up broke, right? Like it is. I mean, I guess that is a fine edge, like a fine line, like of passion, where you don't want it to kill you or cripple you, but nor is it something that you can't just be effortlessly or no risk at all or no sacrifice because it might not be a true passion then because a passion is something that you go through. It's a struggle, but that's what you're passionate about. And so I definitely want to apply that for me personally, to take on a second job. Like even though I am tired after my 9 to 5, I'm not saying maybe I should do it every workday to write when I don't want to write, but I should be consistent enough to have at least 4 to 5, at least 4 days or 3 days out the week. I like let me go ahead and get back on my second job or my third job. Like I want to get to this point, to this hope, this vision. Like for me right now, I'm trying to visualize. Like I'm tired of like writing for my like just writing for a well, I love my writing group, but just I'm tired of just writing to impress or not to get critique because that's not what I'm passionate about. That's not why I write. I'm writing a story that I just want to believe in. Like I even think getting caught up in the quality of work, like the like dotting like the quality and the being impressive and the artistic nature. Like I feel like even that personally, this is me speaking, like it's distracting me in some ways because of course that's important and I definitely want to improve and I am going to improve. Like I want to keep on I want to write my butt off. But I don't want to write my butt off to impress. Rather, I feel like God gave me a dream and a vision, and that's what I just want to create. Like that is the end goal, not which I can do that right now. Maybe the end goal is not necessarily the big reward and everybody knows my name. The end goal is just I get to do something dope that I believe in, and that's it. And like, of course, I want to improve and polish it and make it good, but I'm making it good not to impress or to, you know, to show that I'm a good artist, to prove to people I'm a good artist. Like that's so hard for me right now because like, it's a lot of times I just want to prove to people, like I can do this, I can do this, but it's like it's tiring and it exhausted me and took away a lot of my motivation, my drive. Like I'm like, bro, I'm trying to impress, and I feel like I'm always like either I fall flat on my face, or when people are impressed, I'm just like, oh, that's nice. Like it's that awkward moment, like, oh, this is what that is. Like it's not enough. Like I feel like it's not, and I just think I realize more as like I just want to create something that is on my heart, that I believe in, that I enjoyed. You know.
Since we're diving into this about, thanks for going on. I call it a little bitty monologue or rant. Your soapbox. Um,
So
I was really just thinking about passion and the different scopes of it. A lot of the points you had were like real honest points that I would say most people that are trying to really continue their passion go through. But I found this website, and one of the questions that popped up, that it really stood out to me, and it says, "Who are your biggest supporters?" I know as much as we talk about passions as we us doing it for ourselves, but when you're really trying to get passionate about what you're wanting to execute, ultimately, sometimes what you want as a passion, you may not feel that way sometimes. We're human. I know one day I know I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to get it done. At the end of work, I don't go to the gym because I don't want to get it done. But I know my wife may say, hey, let's go to the gym. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I'm realizing sometimes those supporters can really get you to that next place of when I'm not
yeah.
feeling that way, until you can get more confident to build this up on a consistent basis, so you know your passion is something that is consistent in your lifestyle. Again, it only takes
Right.
one day to start. But my question, I guess, to you, Nova, is who are your supporters to support you in and through your passion?
Um, I brought him up earlier, and even though I wasn't like trying to like, I was getting really cerebral and talking of what I was on like the writers group. Like the writers group has actually been heaven sent. Like they have pushed me to write. I just didn't. But I realized I feel like I want to use it as a tool and not as a motivation, if that makes sense. Or not motivation. Because it is motivating. I should say better. I want to use it as the tool or the help or the support system that it is, rather than my goal. You know, like maybe like I don't want my goal just to, you know, pass their eyes and I'm like, okay, I did a good story. It's more like, man, they gave me some advice, some tips, because they pushed me to have a deadline. That's another thing, like just practicality, like giving me a deadline, and then they kind of give me like advice and like also encouragement. And then, but at the same time, I don't want it to be the goal. That's my goal is to, you know, that, oh, I didn't get no critiques, you know, rather than I want my goal is when I read the story, I'm reading what I want to read, what I, or not necessarily I want to read, like, but I mean, because this, I mean, granted, you know, whoever is listening to this, rather, you know, if you maybe just come from a secular point of view, I guess you could take it that way. As a Christian, I want to write something that I believe God used me for. And so, like you said, that support system is, it helped me to even get to this point to keep on writing, because I don't know if I would have kept writing if I didn't have some of those deadlines, if I didn't have some of those encouragement. Like some people were saying, like, "Oh, you got it, you're a writer," and I'm like, "Really? I don't feel like it." And I guess that's a big thing is imposter syndrome, and like a support system is always good for that to tell you, because they might have more more belief in you than you do have yourself, and that's always like that extra oomph that you kind of need, because it sucks when you fail, you know. It just sucks when you fail. Like woe is to the man who like falls by himself. He has no one to pick him up. It sucks. And so I think like that's my answer, I guess, in that sense of I guess I have a few answers, but support systems give you the encouragement, feedback, the supports, the encouragement, feedback, and practical things like deadlines, and as well as like, you know, somebody to lean on when you feel like, you're not what you want to be. So
Thanks for that
that's my
feedback. No,
answer.
it was just a legit quick thought process. I know most of this you've been talking about your passion, and I think during this podcast, I feel like this more is just really diving into your passion, not really going into mine. Maybe we
Uh,
can have a part two
I'm sorry.
episode going into mine,
Oh,
but we're on this track, and I think it makes more sense to continue with asking you these questions about your passion. We've really covered about what that looks like in your support, no matter how that looks. But in that case, what are you doing, like in the day to day, the mundane life, to really get you to that next level of achieving your passion? Not just it being a passion anymore, but maybe getting to a career type of change, or getting to the next level that it could bring income, or even just getting into the next level onto where you feel so comfortable doing it, you can take that next step to make that passion more of a reality. Because we can have a passion of, I love cooking, you know, I mean, that is a passion of mine. But I know if I put a little bit more into that, maybe I could do a small business. Maybe I could just cook for family or friends. But the reality is that that passion, it it has bloomed, and you have a support group. But what are you doing? What changes can you see that need to be changed, or you're trying to change to get to that next level of achieving your passion?
um, it's interesting. Like, well, for me, I had to um, ex- like first take out like this sense of like I'm doing this for a viral moment. Because like like I said, I think some of that for me is like personally of that romanticism of passion. Like, oh, it's because of my passion I'm gonna have this Disney moment, you know, which is like cool and can happen surely, you know. But I think, and this is what Kendrick Lamar in his "Don't Kill My Vibe" song, where he even talks about like reaching that level of a sense like for he talks about I forgot the exact lyric, but he says something of a sense of like I feel the stage. To me, that's amazing. To you, that's just a stiff check. I mean that with all disrespect. That always kind of lingers in my soul because I'm like, you know, it's not necessarily about the check, and it's not necessarily about, you know, the numbers as much as it's about I am pursuing a passion that I just enjoy. And so when I am trying to reach somewhere where it's like a feasible thing, like I'm making income off of it, it's more like if I don't make income, that's fine. Like I'm always going to do this basically. Like I'm just going to do it. Like I heard another actor, he said like, sometimes we do things to hit our big, our big, the big time. We put ourselves on a time limit when sometimes art is a lifestyle, and that hit me hard. I'm like, dang, it's a lifestyle, and sometimes it's not necessarily like my goal is to make income necessarily. Like, of course, that's one of them, but that's not my primary. My primary is like, did I write today? Like, I think that's a big question I ask myself. Am I writing today? And you know, how much am I writing? And then I will go to that next step of like, okay, what can I do with what I written? Like right now, I'm in the process of a book, and that's just like that's a hard process. Like you don't just like, okay, guys, I'm gonna drop my book in the next few weeks. Like Like sometimes it takes a bit longer, which is fine. But then there's another project that I'm actually find myself working on that just feels nice right now, and like it's gonna be like short stories that I just want to put up online. And I know it may not be flash fiction or like very short fiction or something like that, and maybe the market for that's not as big, but at the same time, this is my passion, so I'm just gonna put it up there and be consistent about it. And then if you know by the grace of God it does blow up, it blows up. But if it don't, it don't. And I started really thinking like this because I don't know if you saw that someone made a Christian video game, and I forgot what, I don't even know the
I don't think
name
I've
of it,
seen
but
that
it was
yet.
like,
I don't honestly think I've seen that yet, but I'm pretty sure after this
yeah,
podcast I'm gonna go look it up.
you can look it up. Yeah, they made a Christian game where you are in the Bible time and you're going where Jesus is at or something like that. It's like an open world. And they was, people talked about it, and then when it came released, it didn't do too hot, and then they was like, well, it's the devil that was holding it back or something. Like that's the last time I remember when I looked at it, which I was
Yeah,
like,
that's. I'm
I
sorry. I'm
thought
gonna
that was
interject right
weird.
quick. I, Nova knows this. I've known this through experience. I grew up interesting. I'll say that. I won't go into detail, but the reality is it was very common to say, "Well, the devil said this," or "It's just the enemy." And the reality is like, no, it's not. Let's be realistic. We live in a world that is broken, and so if we're looking at the whole perspective, what percentage of people on this planet believe in Jesus, for example. Now, if your clientele, what I've learned in college is if you're marketing towards Christians, well, yeah, they're going to sell that and people are going to buy it. But it's like if I go to the store and I have God's word, the scripture, a Bible, I'm like, hey, yo, who wants to buy the Holy Bible? Well, some people may already have the Bible. Some people may deny the Bible. But if you're going to create a game like that, you have to know, as well as, for example, Blake Dallas, what's his name? He created The Chosen. He has to understand that The Chosen is not for everyone. The same way when
Right.
people have a passion for content, it won't be for everyone. Horror movies are not for everyone. Call of Duty is not for everyone. Hip hop music is not for everyone. Country music is not for everybody. And so when you said that immediately, I was like, I can't agree with that because half of the things that we give the enemy power over, he had nothing to do with it. We just say that because when we have failed or fallen in our passion, the only thing we are left to do is to blame the enemy instead of looking at ourselves and saying, okay, that was a little bit of me, but I know that I can do better next time. Or hey, it's okay. I know everyone that may not believe in Jesus is gonna like this, but you know what? Maybe at some point the game will continue to grow. And I think as
Right.
small developers, as any game, I would assume they're a small developer studio, that it's going to take time to grow that audience. As we're talking about our today, our passions don't start in one night, nor should blaming someone take one day to have an answer. I think most corporate companies in America can really say, how did this issue come up? And we can't simply say, well, it was our competitor. They put out a commercial. That's why our business is doing bad. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But yeah, I'll let you continue there.
What I was gonna say, I mean, I think that's true. That I agree overall, like that. We can't always blame the devil for failures that maybe we can have fixed. But it also just kind of like sometimes there's this sort of belief that, well, you know, it is the art industry and all that is the devil's playground, and no Christian can make it or things like that. And I'm like, you know, well, first of all, like I think God can put anybody up on top if they desire, even the people who you think are, who are not morally like or Christians. Like I still feel like God gave opportunity to everybody. But so it's not necessarily about that, because at the end of the day, if we look, Solomon is like the most famous. Like he had, kingdoms give him gifts, and he had how many wives, how many concubines. He was like the richest of all, like rich man, famous and whatsoever. And his story didn't end so well. So it's not necessarily about, you know, how big our success is sometimes, as much as it's just sometimes about what's our goal, what do we really want from our passion, and like, and just putting it out there. I think it's actually just good enough, because there's so many, you know I think it's just good enough that if I can make this short story and put it out for people to consume, even if it's just one person, I'm just going to be happy with that. And now, of course, I'm going to be more happy if it's all of a sudden like, oh, this is a new thing, a whole new trend, and those thoughts and visions in my head are, flying and all like, oh, what if, and that's cool too. But if I don't get that, I'm going to be okay, because my goal wasn't necessarily to make it big as much as my goal was to, I just want to put something out that I'm proud of, and that's something that I would read, something that I would enjoy. And I think that's more important now. And I think that's what I want to motivate me. I want that to be my engine, right? And like, and if like I make money off of it, like that's amazing. That's cool. Because sometimes I think we also have to consider the passions that we have is our family and our backgrounds. Because sometimes it is easier for others, right? And I think about like my dad. He was in the Air Force, airplane mechanic. Like, and I look back, I'm like, man, like, really, I could have been lined up to join the military better yet, because that's typically what people do. They do what their parents did, and you kind of have a edge already on that because your parents did this. Therefore, you can go a bit further than what your parents did. And but yet that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. So in some ways, I do feel, I think there is something there to talk about, right? To acknowledge that sometimes like our passions didn't line up with our families, which is fine, of course. But at the same time, someone who was raised in a family of bookworms and professors, and like that's what they did on their pastime was, talk about articles and things like that, is going to start ahead of me, who like we watch TV, we watched movies, and we played video games, and which is still dope, and I'm glad I did those things and those influenced my writing. But I acknowledge where I'm like, man, I am kind of starting from ground zero in some ways. In others, I might have a bit more talent, but even then, like, I don't want to do this just because I'm talented. Like, I want to do it because this is just a purpose on my heart, and I want to find joy in it. So
And I get that. I think you hit a couple points. I forgot one of the points. I wanted to go back to it. I was actually taking notes, but when it comes down to that passion, I think you said from ground zero, and I think once you figured out your passion, it is something that we all, I feel like, monthly, weekly, or daily, I'd say weekly or monthly, honestly, to self-evaluate. It is so easy to be in the society that we're in, to go on the internet, to criticize, to critique, to say, why is that parent doing this? Why is that person doing that? Why is this? And you can make a comment and you can leave it, but the reality goes to show anyone can go on the internet and say anything. That doesn't mean it's actually
mhm.
contribute to anything, because the reality is, if you're going to comment on a video, someone has already 600 videos on their YouTube, TikTok, or Twitch channel or Instagram, and you're the one just posting family photos, just mocking people. But now maybe that's your passion. Maybe your passion is just to haggle people and to
Be
harass
a
people.
hater.
Yeah, or a hater. Like that is you can do that. That we're in the United
That's a
States,
sad
freedom of
passion.
speech. But the reality is You're sitting here harassing someone who is actually doing something, and then the next 2 years you're just like, I'm still sitting here harassing someone. And maybe that is what you have wanted your entire life. But when someone can take the opportunity to self evaluate, they can put themselves in a box and see what traits they have to contribute. Or in this case, if you're starting at ground zero, well, I know I'm starting at ground zero here. This is my kind of concept. Oh, I think I'm echoing on your headset.
Oh, am I?
You're
Sorry.
good. Um, is starting at ground zero is if I'm self evaluating and I can see where my weak spots are at and where they're located, I can actually start moving forward at fixing those pieces that can get me to that next level. For example, if I want to be a storyteller, I may be a good writer. I can write letters, I can write love notes, I can even write for marketing companies. But if I can't tell a story in my writing, well, that's not good. Do I go on Fiverr and have private lessons? Do I go to a writer's group to see how they write their stories, to see how I can contribute? Do I go on YouTube or do I go on plenty of websites to see what does it take to be a story writer? How do you write a captivating story? And some people can just tell stories. And in my opinion, I don't think it takes someone to go through training to do it. But if you're wanting to get a better foundation of storytelling, go for it. Because the reality is, if that is your passion, even if you're starting from ground zero, let's actually learn when we're at ground zero instead of skipping it and just starting our passion only to fail because we don't have the tools we needed to get to that next level of our passion. And I actually want to get into that last part, and I think that's how we're in the podcast is what skills do you need to get into your passion? So the other question I have for you, Nova, is typically when you're talking to people, how do you, I guess, obtain or listen or know that they were able to get their basics down to see where they're at in their passion now? And for example, I'll toss one in is I realized for myself, I can't just say that I'm a chef if I've never cooked in a kitchen. Well, that means I need to get ingredients. That means I have to read a book to understand how to cook. I need to put down note cards. I need to write down my recipes. I need to read the instructions so when I get in the kitchen, I can then act it out. But again, that started at ground zero. As much as I hated that in culinary school, that actually benefited to me as I am a husband cooking for my family. I know that I can pick up a recipe and I can look at the ingredients, see the name of what I'm cooking, and because I already know the cooking techniques, I don't have to read the recipe in depth unless it's a new recipe I've never cooked before.
Yeah. Like when I say ground zero, I'm saying ground zero in the sense of comparison. Um, right? Because I use the family as an example. Like if you um like I'm hearing music, but
You can't hear it. You're good.
all right. If you can hear like you talking about, you're a shelf. When I mean like ground zero, yeah, is like I don't know this. I'm just using this as an example. If you start off with a family that taught you how to cook and how to clean the kitchen, how to be a sous chef, or how to do these techniques, or even not even just a sous chef or a more professional setting, just how to home cook and how to do certain things with a chicken or something like that, you're already learning as a child into a passion you already kind of fostering in your heart. So you're kind of already starting levels at a young age. You see that even with like basketball players, especially like professional players. Like most of the time, generally they started at a young age, and they was their father's like, let's go to the gym, let's play some ball. You're going to give you some dribbling drills, and that I'm not saying that always works, but I'm just saying that you're already starting levels. So generally, it starts from the family in comparison to someone who never played basketball until they reached middle school or high school. You're kind of already, you didn't start off with it. Now, granted, there's some people who still made it. Like I know somebody from my college who made it to the professional league, and their story, to my understanding, is that they started playing basketball in college, which is crazy. But you know, you have crazy cases like that where it's just crazy like that. But even then, like they still probably go to practice every day, right? And they still train every day. Um, and I think I just want to, I guess, establish that ground zero part of what I meant. And that's it's only meant in a sense of comparison because everybody starts somewhere,
And
and I
I
think,
agree with that.
and I, yeah, and I think overall it's just important. Um, your question is like, where do you start to be that passion itself? Like, when did I start saying, "Oh, I am a writer"? I think it's when you start doing it. I don't necessarily think it's just when you succeed in it, which is like crazy to say, and maybe some people would disagree with that. Like, if you didn't put out nothing, then are you? If I didn't put out a mixtape, am I a rapper? You know, or if I can't rhyme on beat, am I a rapper? I still rhyme, right? Or I don't rhyme. I think it's when you start doing it and you do it consistently.
Man, man.
Um, I think that's the more important thing. Now, where you line up and if people want what you got, that's a whole different like thing, right? And that is something like I think you just kind of let the market decide, but you don't if it's your passion, if you like what you're doing, if you foster sort of a joy of doing your passion rather than I'm I am this for everybody to buy and I'm this big and I'm that. Like I think sometimes we say this is our passion is to write, but really your passion is to be a famous author. And when you don't get that famous author, then you kind of lose your motivation because it wasn't never the writing, it was to be a famous author. And sometimes those things just intertwine within our like gifting and our passion to just write. Those things intertwine, and I guess I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to untangle that and just make it about the thing rather than the thing like I used to kind of just like want the fame and I'm trying to use the thing. Now I'm trying to say it's just for the thing. Like that's what I want to do. It's for the thing. And now if I get big, amen, I'm so happy. I'm going to be grateful. If I don't get the thing, I'm still going to be grateful cuz I get to do the thing. I get to, set aside time like I am taking care of my life enough where I can do my thing. And I should just be grateful. Like I seen like I remember watching like I'm still like trying to do a comic book on the side. I saw some artists talking about how like he put so much money to make this comic book and then he found himself he had to move back in with his family, his parents' house. And it's like, you know, that sucks. And he went for it. And I guess in that sense, I just find myself like more compassion, like more like part of me used to think like, oh, I don't want to be that, and I still don't want to be that. But I guess I'm just grateful that I am making the right choices right now, that I'm balancing in it, like but some people might have to go all in, but and then sometimes it don't work. I don't, this is life. Like I'm not here to say this is what you need to do to succeed, and this is just things I learn in my life right now in my road where I find myself like I can do my personal is like 7:30 to 4:30 job, and then I need to set at least 2 hours to write, or or maybe even longer. Sometimes I write longer or whatever. Like just I'm trying to focus on that more.
I'm
And
I'm I'm gonna butt in right quick. So essentially, you're planning for your passion. You have to make a plan. You have to make that mindset, that mind space, to say this is something I'm going to do and I'm gonna follow it through. And even if that passion, as you mentioned about that gentleman about the comic book, yeah, he had to move in with his parents, but at least he is following through on his passion. I think there's a
at
difference
least
of
he has a
following.
comic book, right?
Yeah. At
Like he
least,
has the comic books.
and I think even with that,
But
it's like, yeah, sometimes our passions put us in awkward places, but I realize at what point does a passion become a passion, and what point does that passion become something that's going to be detrimental to your life? And I've realized that there's two sides of that. Yes, that sometimes that passion does grow and it's fantastic. But if you don't have supporters or you don't have a plan, and if you're not ready to step into that passion, it can actually be so detrimental to your life that you weren't ready for that. And I've realized that even with people who start businesses, where they put money aside because they know if they don't make money in the first 6 months, they have money to pull from. Or they have such a big business loan that they're willing to take that sacrifice to tap into it to keep that business up and running without using their personal income. But at some point, they're going to have to put money aside for a rainy day to pay for some portion of that passion to get you to the next day.
right, right, because it. I mean, everyone's life is different, you know. And someone who went all in, it worked out for them, and some they went all in and didn't, and some didn't have to go all in and it worked out. I guess it's. I always feel like this is just what I think. You gotta, assess the risk, right? Your risk and reward, and if that fits your life, right? If because at the end of the day, if I risk making this comic book and sit back home, doesn't mean this comic book is going to be the one that gets me over the top. And that was one thing that I noticed is like I want to, I don't want to like risk it all thinking like this will put me over the top when I did risk it all and it flopped. Like you said, like it's just you might have not been either not ready or it just didn't or you just didn't make the right decision, which we all don't make the best decisions. I mean, I'm not, you know I'm not this author yet, but I am writing. I am a writer, so I'm getting. I'm writing short stories. I do have published short stories actually. That I do have so on my belt, but you know we all are on our different paths and different um what is it, landmarks? No, I can't even think of the terminology right now. But we all on our different points of our journey.
Well, all I got to say is this episode of Passion has come to its conclusion. We're probably going to have a part two of Passion because there's so much to talk about, not just about what we've covered today, but a larger scope about of what that not only means for us as individuals doing this podcast, but you, the listener, to really understand that I have to put in the work for passion. I'm tired of people saying, oh, do you want to just make this much money? You want to do this? Follow these 5 steps. The reality is that a passion does not just say, oh, here's these 5 steps. A passion takes time. It takes a thought process. It takes time to think. And again, earlier in the podcast, there are people that may have had a passion and it has flopped. But you can't say that it's a passion if you haven't taken the time to have a group of people, supporters, ask you questions to make sure that everything makes sense. I think another great example of that is when they came out with the first version of Sonic. Yeah, that was someone's passion to make that movie. There was a director that was like, I'm passionate about this film. We can make a good Sonic movie. Well, apparently the CGI group didn't think that was possible, but they at least should have went behind screens, had a group of people set aside to really just go over the character design, but they ended up listening to the general public. Again, anyone who has a passion should plan ahead for their passion and their downfalls so when that time does come, they can get back up again. So we'll probably dive into that on the next episode. Anything else you got to say,
Right.
Nova?
I mean, I do feel like I was dissected. I don't know if that was our purpose, but but surely we can talk more about your passions next time, Ted.
Oh no, for
will
sure.
be
That'll be part two. But
legit.
I've realized that in order to have a honest, truthful conversation with the two people hosting the podcast, we probably have to ask some questions that make us think. But I mean, this is Nov Tech, and honestly, it's always a
Yeah.
good day to die. So, anything else you got, Nov?
Be blessed. Catch y'all later in the next one, and we out.
As Nov says, we
Don't say
outside.
it. No, say it.
We
Yeah.
outside.
He's not outside.
We
Tech is not
outside.
outside.
Okay,
Tech is not
we're
outside.
inside a building.
No, I'm outside.